This is going to be Saturday, episode number 2, and I said that we would be going along with the changes as the game changes within food delivery, and that did not take very long. 24 hours after I changed the focus of this channel, we have our first one already, and it's a doozy. So stay with me here. What if I told you that Uber has dumped tip baiting? You read that correct. Uber has dumped tip baiting. Not even banned the practice. The practice sort of still exists, but it doesn't affect your bottom line anymore. And it makes accepting Uber deliveries a bit more appealing than they used to. And so here's how this is. Here's the 411. What is tip baiting? Well, tip baiting was the practice that Uber allowed where tips could be pre-tipped on Uber just like any other delivery app, where the tip is always included in the offer to the driver. This is true of any platform, but the one thing that made Uber different is that they allowed drivers to, or passengers, gal, help me. Anyway, that allows customers to reduce or cancel the tip entirely once the food has been delivered within an hour. And this, of course, reduced how much you received in the end, and was generally a very bad thing for a delivery driver on the Uber app. Now, obviously, this made it to where I did not take Uber food orders at all. The only time I picked up Uber orders was for Walmart or a small pet food chain that we have in Minnesota. Those deliveries did not have tips, and therefore tip baiting was not possible with those types of orders. And so I could take those comfortably with the math and calculations within the app being true and correct. But for food and restaurant orders, they can show up a certain amount and whoops, the customer takes the tip away, and all of a sudden you're down to minimum payment. Now, how this is going to work going forward. I decided to wait until this afternoon to film this episode because I wanted to make sure that I had a full grasp on how this worked. So I took an order on Uber for food delivery here this afternoon. And so how it's supposed to work is that you are supposed to be guaranteed the amount of the promised tip inside of the delivery itself. Now, how does that actually work in practice? Well, here's how it works in practice. You get your order, you get your delivery, you get your base payment at time of delivery, no different than it always has been. Your tip, however, you have to still wait an hour to get. Now, however, it shows up in the offer as a guaranteed payment. So once the hour is up, you get the money, and you're credited with that. They still give the customer an opportunity to reduce or reverse the tip. However, my assumption at this point is that since the company is guaranteeing that you will be paid this amount, a customer would have to have a good reason to reduce the tip. They can't just do it just because they feel like it, as was previously the case. So I'm going to figure that right now. A customer has to have a good explanation. A good explanation being the order was inaccurate, the delivery came later than promised, which in my market is a regular feature because of the fact that we have some of the longest wait times in nature, Forest Lake, Minnesota. I actually calculated this once. The average restaurant wait in Forest Lake is 12 minutes. That's average. That's not even the worst. The worst waits have been upwards of 45 minutes in Forest Lake. Now, if I'm a customer and if I'm getting it that much later, I'd be pissed off too. So After the hour was over, I got the full amount of the tip. And actually, not only did I get the full amount of the tip, but I also got an extra amount because the customer in my particular case increased the tip. So that part is still true. If a customer does increase the tip, you get a higher amount after that hour has elapsed. But I think what the company has to do in this case, they have to figure out exactly why a customer is reducing a tip, and if there's a legitimate reason why they should have to cover it. I believe that to be the case. I'm not obviously behind the scenes at Uber, and so if you do order this and if you experience this as a customer, drop a comment below and let me know. I will be happy to explain that as well, how that works. I don't order off the food apps. It's just so much cheaper for me to get it myself. And so even though I deliver on these apps, I never use them. It's much cheaper to either pick up the order yourself at the restaurant or make it yourself at home using groceries that you buy. And again, for the groceries not to be delivered by an app either, because you get hit with a fee on that as well. But food delivery has some of the worst fees out of the entire group, so I never use them to order my dinner. I will always pick it up at the restaurant. Forest Lake being a small city, population 20,000, my drive to pick up the food is never very far. So there it is, guys. Well, if I told you, Uber has ended the practice of tip baiting once and for all. It is well overdue. Well overdue. Especially since a little less than a year ago, the CEO of Uber, Dara Khosrowshahi, was tip baited himself while doing a delivery. Kind of just for the experience of it, he got tip baited. And so I'm kind of surprised it took this long. But here we are. Tip baiting is finally over. You can finally accept the orders on Uber that come across and know that you're going to get the funds that are promised. So they're back to they're up to where DoorDash has always been. The order that you get or the offer that you get on DoorDash is always that money that you get in the offer is always what you get. However, on DoorDash you don't have to wait for the tip to come across. You get it at completion. So that's still an advantage on the DoorDash side. But at least with Uber, they can't affect your pay anymore by tip baiting. They can remove the tip, but the company will now cover that difference. And as I said before, I believe the company is going to make customers have a good explanation. Now, obviously, if it's for a delayed pickup for an extensive restaurant wait, that's legitimate. You know, I don't blame a customer for wanting to reduce the tip on those situations. But I also think that it makes sense for Uber to cover the shortfall on those because it's, well, not cool for anybody. And the reason why deliveries take so long, restaurants take so long in my market, combination of two things. One, labor shortages here. It's not very easy for restaurants to hire and keep people in Forest Lake, to the point where one fast food chain that I know of hires illegal immigrants, which affects the way that we're treated because they're treated poorly likewise. So we have long pickup waits for that reason. We also have long pickup waits because, well, DoorDash is set up that way. But DoorDash also didn't allow tip baiting. You could have your tip reduced and DoorDash doesn't allow their customers to reduce the tips. Your tips are final, even though they're in advance. I could go on and have an entirely new episode about tip culture, but I just wanted to cover this moving event as it happened. It was announced yesterday. It took effect today. So today would be the first day that you can take advantage of this. If you do and you have a similar experience or a different experience to myself, drop a comment and let me know. I would definitely appreciate to hear from you on that one. So that said, please let me know. Appreciate it. And again, if you're on this channel and you're getting this video because you signed up for it under previous pretenses, because this channel has previously covered 2 different subjects and was all over the board before. If you're following this channel on those pretenses, I'm not going to be offended if you unfollow. But I'm figuring that a lot of those people have turned off notifications, which is okay too. So hey, there it is. What if I told you Uber has finally ended tip baiting once and for all? We will see you again tomorrow. I'll be back with any changes that have come or anything else that has been revealed on this. Very much a game-changing policy change within Uber Eats. So you folks have a great weekend. Peace out, homies.